Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. Liverpool are taking on Leicester City at Anfield tomorrow in their final game of the 2017 calendar year, in yet another game where they just really need to pick up another 3 points, to be honest, because if there's anything I've noticed from all the football that I've been watching over the festive period and over the last month or so, it's just that our top four rivals are not going away. You know, I keep watching Arsenal games, I keep watching Tottenham games, keep watching Chelsea games as well, and even a little bit of Burnley in and around the place. And always when I'm watching, I'm willing for them to drop points, desperate for them to draw a game or even lose it, just to help Liverpool make up a little bit of ground on those teams. And it just never seems to happen, you know. It's just... the fact simply is that Liverpool have to keep winning their games. They have to keep picking up 3 points, because every time we drop points, we do risk falling away and losing our place in the top four. And it's very precarious at the moment. You know, we are only in the top four by 1 point. So if Liverpool want to stay there, especially come the end of the season, then they just have to keep winning games and getting maximum points. So the team news going into this game against Leicester: Jordan Henderson is still way away from being fit for this match. Jurgen Klopp refused to actually put a time scale on Henderson's recovery from his injury. It's something like a stage 2 or grade 2 hamstring injury. I'm not super, clued up on sports physiotherapy or anything like that, but by the sounds of it, it's a pretty bad injury. It's going to keep him out for at least a month or something like that, and it's hard to know when he's ever actually going to make his comeback and how long he'll take before he actually gets back to full fitness as well. So definitely no Jordan Henderson for this game. Alberto Moreno still out for this game, but a positive update on him. Klopp said that he's probably going to be back for the Man City game, which is about midway through January, and that would mean that there are only 3 more games that Alberto Moreno would miss. And while Robertson's been good, we've kind of missed having 2 options in that left back slot, because there is the worry that with the fixtures that are coming up now and the very short gap between the game against Leicester and the game against Burnley on, I think it's January 1st, that Robertson might start to burn out, or we may have to go back to using Milner at left back. So it's a huge positive that Moreno is coming back, if a little bit annoying that it won't be until the game against Man City. So as for how I think the side are actually going to line up for the game, I think it's going to be Mignolet in goal. I've seen a couple of shouts for Karius for this one, because obviously earlier on in the season we saw that Simon Mignolet had been rested against Arsenal at Anfield. There was a lot of talk about whether or not Mignolet was being dropped. A lot of confusion about that. It never seemed to actually get resolved. I think there's a chance that Mignolet could be rested again, just for the sake of, preserving his mental well-being and stopping him from getting, not focused in games and stuff like that. But I think Mignolet will play in this game. And then in front of him, I think it's going to be Alexander-Arnold at right back, Matip and Lovren in defence, and then Andrew Robertson at left back. My thinking with Alexander-Arnold and Robertson is the fact that even though Alexander-Arnold and Robertson both played in the game against Swansea at Anfield, and Alexander-Arnold in particular does need the odd rest to help nurture his development and stop him from getting overtired or overworked and suffering from, Michael Owen syndrome of a young player who's shown a lot of promise but always fails to fulfil that because he was just overplayed early on in his career, that he's being managed very well in that regard. But I just think with the game against Burnley 48 hours later, he's obviously not going to be able to play both of them, and I think there'll be a lot more defending to do in the one against Burnley, so I'm expecting Gomez to play in that game. And likewise with Robertson, I get the feeling we might actually go with Milner at left back in that game to give Robertson a little bit of a rest and add a slightly more bit of defensive nous to the side. And, or is it Nous? It's Nous, isn't it? I think it's Nous. Let me know in the comments below which one is right. But yeah, those are my full-backs. Centre-backs, I'm going with Matip and Lovren. There's obviously a shout for Klavan over Lovren. He played alongside Matip in the game against Swansea and obviously did actually pretty well. Looked very composed, looked pretty good on the ball. Never really looked worried about anything in particular, but I just think, we should probably rotate our centre-backs a little bit so at least one of them isn't tired in the game against Burnley on New Year's Day. And then the midfield, I'm expecting it to be Emre Can in that number 6 role, and then either side of him, I'm thinking it's going to be Wijnaldum and Phil Coutinho. There's a shout for Adam Lallana in that spot because obviously he is coming back to full fitness now, and it's a pretty good time for Liverpool because we need a couple of extra options in midfield just to help us out over this sort of congested fixture period. And without Henderson, it's great to have Adam Lallana back, but I just think to start him in this game would come ever so slightly too soon, and I get the feeling that Klopp may actually try and bring Lallana on with about half an hour left just to kind of complete his recovery process from his injury so that he might actually be available to start the game against Burnley, because we are going to have to do a lot of rotation for that game, given that it is only 48 hours afterwards. And then I've gone with Coutinho just because, you know, the guy is in fantastic form at the moment. He's doing so incredibly well, and, you know, whether or not that's because he's trying to force through a move to Barcelona, who really cares at the moment? He's playing for Liverpool. He's playing very well for Liverpool, and in a game where Leicester might do quite a bit of sitting back, you need a player like Phil Coutinho in there to just help unlock their defence. And as well with Phil Coutinho, and it kind of comes into who I'm expecting to start in the front three, I think he actually complements Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain very, very well, because as we all know, Oxlade-Chamberlain came to Liverpool because he wanted to fulfil his desire to become a centre midfielder rather than a winger. And I think Coutinho kind of fits the mould of a player who can also play on the wing or in centre midfield, and having him and Oxlade-Chamberlain on the pitch means that they can interchange those positions quite freely, and both of them are perfectly satisfied. Because I mean, Oxlade-Chamberlain, he's good at centre midfield, but he's still got a lot of attributes that make him very useful for Liverpool when playing out wide. And as well with Phil Coutinho, it's nice to have him playing deep and pulling the strings, but his end product and his goal return is actually a lot better when he's playing in that left wing role. So I think having both those players on the pitch actually works very well for Liverpool at the moment. So I think Ox is going to start in that front three, and then alongside him, I reckon it's going to be Sadio Mane and Roberto Firmino. Mane because, you know, he got taken off early against Arsenal, it was, who we played before Christmas, and then he didn't play a single minute of the game against Swansea. So I think Jurgen Klopp has definitely been resting Mane so that he is primed and ready for this fixture. And then I think Firmino, I was tempted to drop him out and put Solanke in instead, but I just thought, you know, Firmino, he tends to get brought off a little bit early in games, normally with about 20 minutes to go, and I think that is because Jurgen Klopp sees him as so vital to this Liverpool side. He just can't, you know, drop Firmino for games, so he takes him off early, keeps him a little bit rested, keeps him well rested and available to start pretty much every match. So I'm expecting him to start against Leicester as well. And I think Mo Salah will be given a little bit of a rest and will probably almost inevitably be unleashed from the bench to help Liverpool win this game. So Leicester City then, I think we're all very much aware of Leicester's strengths. You know, they are a team that absolutely love to play on the counter-attack. They've been doing pretty well under Claude Puel since he came in, replacing Craig Shakespeare midway through the season. And as we all know, their main players, their main threats to Liverpool are Jamie Vardy and Riyad Mahrez, and I am ever so slightly worried about those players going into this game, because obviously Jamie Vardy, he loves a match like this. He loves playing against the big teams. It's why he played so well during the title winning season, was just that every game was a big game for them. And I think Jamie Vardy is the kind of player who just plays on pure motivation and confidence. So when he goes into these matches, he is so desperate to score that he almost just makes it happen. Because of that, it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, without wanting to sound too sort of magical mumbo jumbo about it. I do think Jamie Vardy just has that little bit about him that means that he can get the goals that he so desperately wants to get in these games. And with Riyad Mahrez as well, you know, he's seeking a move. We kind of are aware of that now. He's seen an upturn in form recently, coincidentally just in time for the January transfer window. So I'm kind of worried that he's going to try and put on a show in this game and show off to any potential suitors in January that he is good enough to win that move that he so desires. So those are the two players that Liverpool should be watching out for. And also, like I said, Leicester are very strong on the counter-attack, and those are the players that, you know, they are rapid and they are perfect for that kind of style. So definitely a team to watch out for. However, I still reckon Liverpool can get the business done in this game. You know, we've made a habit of just absolutely tonking teams at Anfield so far this season, especially in the last month or so. So here are my 3 reasons why I think Liverpool will beat Leicester City. First of all, the fact that this game is at Anfield does give me tremendous hope for it, because while Liverpool's form has been a little bit patchy so far this season, that has mostly been away from home, especially when it comes to the defensive performances. Obviously, as we all know, Liverpool have an incredibly good defensive record at home in the league this season, having only conceded 3 goals and never conceding more than 1 in a single game at home so far this season in the league. So that gives me a lot of optimism going into this game. I just think that while the game at the King Power earlier on in the season was a little bit of a scrap, it did end up being quite difficult, mostly through Liverpool's own doing. We made the game tough for ourselves. We let Leicester back into it when we really shouldn't have done. And I just think with this being at Anfield rather than the King Power Stadium, it's a big difference for Leicester as well, because they do tend to play a lot better at home than they do away from home. We've seen in the past that they get big wins and big results against us at the King Power, but they've never really managed to do the same kind of thing at Anfield. And I'm hoping that that trend carries on in this game. And second of all, if I had to pick pick a player who's going to influence this game, I actually think it's going to be Sadio Mane, who's been having a little bit of a tough time at Liverpool of late. You know, he had his last couple of goals, I think, were in the game against Spartak Moscow in the Champions League. Since then, he's been struggling. I feel like he's putting in a little bit too much effort. He seems to be trying to overcompensate for the fact that he's not quite, you know, gelling with the rest of the front three at the moment. He seems to look like a kind of, not a square peg in a round hole, because he does fit with the rest of the front three. We've seen, and the rest of the front four, we've seen that already so many times this season. I just think he's going through a rough patch at the moment. I think Jurgen Klopp made the right decision by taking him off against Arsenal and then resting him completely for the game against Swansea. And I just think now, with a little bit of rest under his belt, he will be raring to go for this game against Leicester, and he will also be absolutely desperate to prove a point and show that he is still good enough to start for this Liverpool team. So I think Mane is going to be massive for us in this game. And finally, I think now that we're getting to the end of the sort of festive fixture pile-up that's been going on over the last few weeks and generally the last month or so, I just think that this is now the point where Liverpool are going to start to have a little bit of an edge over the teams lower down the table, in that rotation that's been occurring for the last month and a half or so is going to really start paying dividends, because Leicester, they have some good players. They've got Vardy, they've got Mahrez, they've got good personnel in that side, but they just don't have as many players as Liverpool do, and that's shown through the fact that they haven't rotated anywhere near as much as Liverpool have. And while that's worked for them earlier on in the season, I feel like this is the kind of point where it's going to start to catch up with them. It's why I'm actually quite confident for the game against Burnley as well. You know, while Burnley have been doing very well this season, they are a formidable force, especially at Turf Moor, which is where we'll be going in a few days' time. I just think we've got to the point this season where the smaller teams, they haven't been able to rotate because they haven't got that many players and that many high quality players in their squad, and it's going to catch up with them, and it should hopefully help Liverpool get the better of Leicester on Saturday at Anfield. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. I'm afraid there's not going to be a post-match video for the game against Leicester because I'm not actually going to be able to watch it. Sadly, or rather happily, depending on how you look at it, I will be taking my dad and my granddad to see my local team play on Saturday at 3 o'clock as a Christmas present. So, you know, if you're unhappy about the post-match video not being there, then sorry, but I'm doing it to be kind, if that's any consolation. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you do all enjoy the match on Saturday, even though I won't be able to watch it. I hope it's a cracker anyway. If you did enjoy this video, why not give it a like? If you're new around here as well, hit that subscribe button. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days as well. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I will be back in a couple of days' time for some pre-match content for Liverpool against Burnley at Turf Moor after we've hopefully beaten Leicester at Anfield. Bye for now.